Hi, Pastor Nathan Decker with your hashtag Better Together devotion for today. Have you ever looked at the Bible, the entire biblical text, and wondered if it didn't seem like the rules seem to be changing at different times and at different places? Adam and Eve are eating fruits and vegetables, and suddenly after Noah, we get to eat meat, and Moses then is told to eat certain meats, but not to eat other meats, and it just seems like the rules keep changing, or the understanding of what it means to be faithful and holy in a community keeps changing. Well, when we take the Bible literally, and that's the part I want to warn us about, is that the Bible was never intended to be taken literally. It was intended to be taken as God's story, God's kind of guide for us, God's the story of people's experience with God. But when we take the Bible literally, we can actually start ending up with a theology that's called dispensationalism. Fancy big word, it's behind me. We've got a big mural in one of our rooms here at the church about it from someone who probably taught this. And dispensationalism came from Dr. Schofield and some others in the late 1800s. Not that long ago, if you think about it. It's a new theology. And it was this understanding from taking the Bible literally and beginning to say that this happened and these were the rules that God had, and that didn't work, so God changed the rules again and changed the rules again, and eventually there's 7 dispensations that are taken and applied and lapped right on top of the book of Revelation, and those 7 churches that are mentioned, and the 7 things that happen. And there's lots of 7s in the Bible, so this makes it really easy to take this theology and lay it on top of the scriptures, which colors the scriptures, doesn't allow God's word to speak for God's self, and leads us astray. You hear what I'm saying is that this is a dangerous theology, because what it does is it teaches us that we're just going to lay back and wait for this particular dispensation, the 6th one that we happen to be in according to this understanding, to go away, and then we'll all be taken up to heaven and God will fix everything. It creates kind of a carefree, careless, relationless faith that no longer cares about the world or people around us. Dispensationalism was really promoted by a doctor who wasn't even a medical doctor, I want to point that out, and someone who didn't have any theological training. Dr. Scofield's reference Bible is still very popular in Christianity, but it's important to note that he wasn't somebody who had actually studied these things, on a professional level. It's similar to asking or inviting someone to come into your home who, they fix their own house with plumbing and stuff, and you're going to trust them to install the entire waterworks for your system because you know that they're the ones who have the right answers. Don't know about you, but I'd rather have a professional plumber, somebody who's studied. And that's what I'm trying to explain here, is that when we look at the Bible, if you look at modern scholars and pastors who have gone through education, we don't look at the text and say it's literal. Take it, it's without errors. It's God's divine law that you have to abide by. We actually end up looking at the scriptures as people's stories, as God's wonderful, wonderful message to us about the Word in flesh. The word that we really want to get to know is Jesus. The word, textual word, is meant to lead us there, to guide us there. Sometimes we get lazy and we use theologies that make us feel good about ourselves or get us off the hook of doing the work that faith requires. To do justice, to love mercy, to walk humbly with God, to care about the world around us, and to understand that God has always, 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 throughout human history, been a God who is there and desires a relationship with us. You can go to the Old Testament and you can find elements of God's grace and steadfastness. God constantly wants to relate with us. God constantly forgives us. There isn't a real difference in the way that God is reacting with us and interacting with us. There's a difference in how we have interpreted God through the years. The biblical text shows and shares this beautiful story of how people have related with God. Instead of trying to take it literal and apply theologies or rules to your life, get to know Jesus through reading the scriptures. Get to know the Word made flesh through these beautiful, beautiful, wonderful words of life. I think when you do, we'll be better together and less worried about fearful end times and dispensations.